What's up, fight fans? You know what's harder than becoming a UFC champion? Becoming a champion in two different weight classes. We're talking about the absolute legends who didn't just dominate one division. They said screw it and conquered another one too. Today, we're breaking down every single UFC double champion. And trust me, some of these stories are absolutely wild. From a guy who knocked out the greatest featherweight ever in 13 seconds, to a 43-year-old who came back to embarrass fighters half his age. Hit that like button if you're ready for some insane MMA stories. And let's dive into the most elite club in all of combat sports. Let's start with the king of trash talk himself, Conor McGregor. This dude literally manifested his destiny into existence. Picture this. It's 2013, and some unknown Irish guy walks into the UFC talking about how he's going to be a two-division champion. Everyone's thinking, yeah, right, buddy. But Conor wasn't just talking. He was about to back it up in the most spectacular way possible. He demolished Marcus Brimage in under 90 seconds in his debut. Then, he went on this absolute tear through the featherweight division. Max Holloway? Done. Diego Brandao? Finished. Dustin Poirier? Knocked out cold. But here's where it gets crazy. Jose Aldo had been the featherweight king for years. This guy was untouchable. Conor gets his title shot, and Aldo pulls out with an injury 2 weeks before the fight. So what does the UFC do? They throw Chad Mendes at him for the interim title. Mendes was taking Conor down over and over, and people thought, this is it, the hype train is derailed. But Conor kept getting back up like the Terminator, and finished Mendes in the second round. Then came UFC 194, the moment that changed everything. 13 seconds. 13 seconds. Aldo finally shows up, and Conor puts him to sleep faster than you can order a Big Mac. That's still the fastest finish in UFC title fight history, and it probably always will be. But Conor wasn't done. He wanted that lightweight belt. And after a detour with Nate Diaz that included a submission loss and a revenge victory, he finally got Eddie Alvarez at UFC 205. This wasn't even a fight. It was a masterclass. Conor dropped Eddie multiple times and finished him in the second round, becoming the first fighter ever to hold two UFC belts at the same time. The man literally rewrote the history books. Now let's talk about DC, Daniel Cormier. This guy's story is what respect and loyalty look like in a sport that's usually all about ego. DC started as a heavyweight and was ragdolling dudes with his Olympic-level wrestling. But here's the thing. His teammate Cain Velasquez was the heavyweight champ. Instead of creating drama or forcing a fight, DC did something almost unheard of in MMA. He dropped down to light heavyweight out of pure respect. At 205, he looked like a different animal. He was beating legends left and right, but then he ran into John Jones. DC lost that first fight, and you could see it broke his heart. But sometimes life gives you second chances in the weirdest ways. Jones got into legal trouble, got stripped, and suddenly the belt was vacant. DC got another shot against Anthony "Rumble" Johnson, and let me tell you, Rumble almost sent him to the Shadow Realm early. But DC showed why champions are different from everyone else. He weathered the storm, used his wrestling, and by the third round, he had Rumble's back and choked him out. Fast forward to 2018. DC decides he wants to go back to heavyweight and challenge Stipe Miocic, arguably the greatest UFC heavyweight of all time. Everyone thought he was crazy. Stipe was younger, bigger, and on an incredible run. First round, boom! DC caught Stipe with a perfect right hand and dropped him. Just like that, he became the second fighter ever to hold two UFC belts simultaneously. At 39 years old, proving that heart and skill beat youth and size. Henry "Triple C" Cejudo might be the most underrated double champ ever. And that's criminal, because this dude's resume is absolutely insane. First off, he won an Olympic gold medal in wrestling and was the youngest American to ever do it. That record stood until 2024. So we're not talking about some random guy. We're talking about elite-level genetics and work ethic. But in MMA, everyone saw him as just a wrestler. He had to prove he could hang with killers who wanted to take his head off. His first shot at Demetrius "Mighty Mouse" Johnson didn't go well. DJ was basically untouchable at flyweight, and he finished Henry in the first round. Most guys would have disappeared after that, but Henry went back to the drawing board. 2 years later, he earned another shot, and this time was different. UFC 227. Henry pulled off one of the biggest upsets in UFC history. He edged out DJ in a super close decision and ended a title reign that had lasted over 6 years. The wrestling nerd had become a killer. But Henry wasn't satisfied with just one belt. He moved up to bantamweight to fight Marlon Moraes for the vacant title. Early on, it looked bad. Moraes was lighting him up with leg kicks, and Henry looked like he was in trouble. But champions find a way. He turned up the pressure, broke Moraes with his pace, and finished him in the third round. Here's what makes Henry special. He actually defended both titles. That's something most double champs never do. He beat TJ Dillashaw at flyweight and Dominic Cruz at bantamweight before retiring on top. Absolute legend. Jon Jones. Where do we even start with this guy? He's simultaneously the most talented and most frustrating fighter in UFC history. At 23 years old, he became the youngest UFC champion ever by absolutely dismantling Shogun Rua. From there, it was pure domination for years. Rampage Jackson, Rashad Evans, Vitor Belfort, Daniel Cormier. He beat everyone they put in front of him. His fight IQ was off the charts, his reach was insane, and his creativity was unmatched. But outside the cage, complete chaos. He got stripped of the title multiple times because of legal issues and failed drug tests. It became this frustrating pattern. Dominate, get stripped, come back, dominate, get stripped again. It was like watching the most talented athlete in the world sabotage himself over and over. But when it came to actually fighting, nobody could touch him. He walked away from light heavyweight in 2020 after beating Dominic Reyes, and then disappeared for 3 years. People weren't sure if he'd ever come back. Then, in 2023, he shocked everyone. He came back at heavyweight, not for a tune-up fight, but for the title against Cyril Gane, one of the most athletic and dangerous heavyweights in the division. People were nervous. How would he look after 3 years off and moving up in weight? Classic Jon Jones. He made it look easy, took Gane down, locked in a guillotine, and made him tap in under 3 minutes. Just like that, Jon Jones was the heavyweight champion. The man is just different. GSP is what happens when you combine elite skill with the discipline of a monk. This dude was a machine. He dominated welterweight for years with his sharp striking, elite wrestling, and fight IQ that was just next level. He first won the belt in 2006, but lost it to Matt Serra in one of the biggest upsets ever. Most guys would have crumbled, but GSP came back stronger and got his revenge. From there, he went on one of the most dominant title runs in UFC history. 9 consecutive title defenses. Nobody could figure him out. Then, in 2013, after a super close fight with Johnny Hendricks, GSP shocked everyone by walking away while still holding the belt. He just disappeared for 4 years, and most people thought he was done forever. But in 2017, out of nowhere, he came back. And not at welterweight. He moved up to middleweight to fight Michael Bisping. GSP had never fought at that weight in the UFC, but you couldn't tell. He looked just as sharp, dropped Bisping, and choked him out in the 3rd round to become the middleweight champ. What's wild is that was his only fight at middleweight. He won the belt and retired again. Talk about going out on top. BJ Penn was a straight-up prodigy, and there's never been anyone quite like him. He became the first American to win gold at the World Jiu-Jitsu Championship as a black belt, and he did it after only a few years of training. That's where the Prodigy nickname came from. He jumped into MMA with almost no pro experience and still made an impact immediately. After just 3 UFC fights, he got a lightweight title shot but lost. Then he did something crazy. He moved up to welterweight and challenged Matt Hughes, who was running that division. BJ shocked everyone by submitting Hughes in the first round and becoming the welterweight champ. But here's where it gets wild. Right after winning the belt, he left the UFC over a contract dispute. When he came back years later, he dropped back down to lightweight, and that's where he really hit his stride. He dominated Joe Stevenson to win the lightweight belt, then defended it against killers like Sean Shirk, Kenny Florian, and Diego Sanchez. During that run, BJ looked unstoppable with his sharp boxing, world-class grappling, and warrior mindset. BJ was only the second fighter in UFC history to win belts in 2 different weight classes, and he did it before weight cutting was even a thing. Pure legend. Randy, the natural couture, deserves the most respect out of everyone on this list. And here's why. He didn't even start MMA until his mid-30s, but he made up for lost time quickly. He was already a decorated Greco-Roman wrestler, so when he came into the UFC, he used that wrestling to control guys and wear them down. He won the heavyweight title in just his 4th pro fight, and the crazy part is, he was always undersized. He was going up against guys way bigger than him, but still held it down. The big turning point came when he dropped to light heavyweight and took on Chuck Liddell, who was on a crazy run and putting people to sleep left and right. But Randy outworked him and got the TKO win. But here's the most insane part. At 43 years old, Randy came back to heavyweight and challenged Tim Sylvia for the belt. Sylvia was way bigger and younger. Everyone thought Randy didn't stand a chance. But Randy controlled him for 5 straight rounds and won the heavyweight title for the 3rd time at 43 years old. That's just different level mental toughness. Finally, let's talk about the newest member of this elite club, Alex Poatan Pereira. This dude was a kickboxing legend who beat Israel Adesanya twice in kickboxing. When Izzy moved to MMA and became UFC champion, he made some comments that fired Pereira up, basically saying nobody knew who he was. That gave Pereira the motivation to switch to MMA, and what happened next was incredible. In just his 4th UFC fight, he got a title shot against Adesanya. He was losing on the scorecards, but landed a perfect left hook in round 5 and finished Izzy to become middleweight champion. Then, he moved up to light heavyweight and beat Jiri Prochazka for that belt too. 2 UFC titles in under 2 years. The man came for revenge and got it in the most spectacular way possible. And there you have it. Every UFC double champion and their insane stories. From Conor's trash talk becoming reality to Randy proving age is just a number. These legends didn't just win belts. They rewrote history. Which story was your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. Smash that like button if you enjoyed this breakdown, and subscribe for more MMA content that'll blow your mind. Until next time, keep training hard and dreaming big. Peace.